Verse for opening a sutra. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of aeons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. The Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 39, Entering the Dharma Realm, Part 2, The 10 Good Teachers of the 10 Dwellings. 7. Dwelling on non-retreat. At that time, the youth good wealth, relying on the strength of the good knowing advisor and depending on the teachings of the good knowing advisor, was mindful of the words of the good knowing advisor. He brought forth deep admiration and delight for his good knowing advisor. As he has this thought, because of the good knowing advisor, I've been led to see the Buddha. Because of the good knowing advisor, I've been led to hear the Dharma. The good advisor is my guide, for he shows to me and guides me in all Buddha Dharmas. The good advisor acts as my eyes, for he enables me to see the Buddhas as being like empty space. The good advisor acts as my breach, for he enables me to enter the lotus pools of all Buddhas thus come once. He traveled gradually to the south until he arrived at the place sea tide. He beheld the garden universal adornment. Walls made of multitudes of jewels entirely surrounded it. Trees of all jewels adorned it in symmetric rows. Trees of all jeweled blossoms rained down multitudes of wondrous flowers, which spread over the ground. Trees of all jeweled incenses, their fragrance permeating the atmosphere, universally perfumed the 10 directions. Trees of all jeweled garlands rained down, huge jeweled garlands, which were suspended from all places. Trees of all money gem kings rained down great money gems that spread out everywhere. Trees of all jeweled garments rained down jeweled garments of various colors, and according to what was needed, spread out everywhere. Trees of all music gave off sounds when the wind blew. These sounds were fine and wonderful, and excelled the music of the heavens. Trees of all implements of adornment each rained down precious, rare, and wondrous objects, which spread out everywhere as decorations. Its ground was clean and pure, without high or low places. In its midst were contained 1,000,000 halls, which were fashioned from great money jewels fitted together. 1,000,000 pavilions were covered over with Jambunada gold. 1,000,000 palaces were adorned with inlaid Vairochana money gems. 10,000 bathing pools, fashioned from multitudes of jewels, were surrounded on all sides by railings of the 7 jewels. Stairways of the 7 jewels fan out to all 4 sides. Water of 8 meritorious virtues was translucent and filled the pools to the brim. The fragrance of its waters was like heavenly chandana. The bottoms of the pools were spread with golden sand, interspersed throughout with precious water-clearing pearls. In the midst of it, geese, ducks, peacocks, cucutta birds frolicked and played, and sang forth harmonious and elegant sounds. Jeweled tala trees extended all around, arranged in rows. Moreover, there were jeweled nets from which golden bells were hung. Swayed by the softly breezes, they constantly emitted wonderful sounds. A huge jeweled canopy was hoisted, surrounded by jeweled trees on all sides. Countless money gem banners were erected, their lights universally, illumining for a distance of 100,000 yojanas. Moreover, in the midst of it were 1,000,000 ponds, in which silt of black chandana had filtered down and settled on the bottom. Lotuses made of all wonderful jewels blossomed, and spread over the water's surface. The colored lights of great money flowers radiated brightness. Moreover, in that garden was a grand palace called Banner of Adornment, the ground of which was paved with wondrous gems of the sea treasury. Vaiduria gems formed its pillars, Jambunada gold covered it over. Brightness treasury monies served as adornments. The flaming light from countless kings of gems was dazzling and blazing. Multi-storied towers and interlacing pavilions were festooned with ornaments. Aruna, king of incense, and Enlightenment, king of incense, both emitted wondrous fragrances which permeated everything. Moreover, spread out everywhere within this palace were limitless jeweled lotus flower thrones, specifically illumining the 10 directions money jeweled lotus thrones, Varochana money jeweled lotus thrones, illuminating the world money jeweled lotus thrones, wonderful treasury money jeweled lotus thrones, lion treasury money jeweled lotus thrones, immaculate treasury money jeweled lotus thrones, universal door money jeweled lotus thrones, brightness adornment money jeweled lotus thrones, securely dwelling in the great sea treasury's purity money king jeweled lotus thrones, and Vajra lion money jeweled lotus thrones. Moreover, in the garden were million varieties of curtains, specifically curtains of garments, curtains of garlands, curtains of incense, curtains of flowers, curtains of branches, curtains of monies, curtains of true gold, curtains of objects of adornment, curtains of music, curtains of spiritual transformations of elephant kings, curtains of spiritual transformations of horse kings, curtains of money gems worn by Lord Chakra. Such as these and others numbered in the millions. There were millions of great jeweled nets that spread out over it, specifically nets of jeweled bells, nets of jeweled canopies, nets of jeweled bodies, nets of the sea treasury's true pearls, nets of violet Vaiduria money gems, nets of lion monies, nets of moonlight monies, nets of multitudes of fragrances in various shapes and images, nets of jeweled crowns, and nets of precious necklaces, such as these and others numbered in the millions. It was illuminated by a million great lights, specifically light of flaming brightness money gems, light of sun treasury money gems, light of moon banner money gems, light of fragrant flaming money gems, light of supreme treasury money gems, light of lotus treasury money gems, light of flaming banner money gems, light of great lamp money gems, light of universally illumining the 10 directions money gems, and light of fragrant brightness money gems, such as these and others numbered in the millions. There constantly rained down millions of objects of adornments and millions of black chandana incenses which emitted wondrous sounds, millions of pundarika flowers that excelled those of the heavens welled forth and were strewn about, millions of necklaces that excelled those of the heavens acted as adornments, millions of wonderful jeweled garland ribbons that excelled those of the heavens were suspended everywhere. There were millions of multicolored wonderful garments that excelled those of the heavens, and millions of assorted colored money jewels whose light universally illumined. A million gods joyously gazed upward and made obeisance. A million heavenly maidens leapt down from empty space. A million bodhisattvas drew near with veneration, constantly delighting in hearing the Dharma. At that time, the Upasika Asha was seated on a lion throne of true gold. She wore a crown made of a net of sweet treasury pearls, and from her arms hung jeweled bracelets of true gold that surpassed those of all the heavens. Her violet blue hair streamed down, and a net of great manis adorned her head. Lion moth money jewels served as her earrings, as you will money gem kings made up her necklaces. A net of all jewels covered her body. Hundreds of thousands of millions of nayutas of living beings bowed to her in reverence. From the east, limitless beings came to where she was, specifically from the Brahma heavens, the heaven of Brahma multitudes, the great Brahma heaven, the heaven of ministers of Brahma, the heaven of self-mastery, and so forth, including all humans and non-humans, from the south, west, and north, the four intermediate directions above and below. It was also like this. Those who beheld this Upasika had all their illnesses eradicated. They left the filth of afflictions. They extricated the thorn of views. They smashed the mountains of obstructions. They entered the state of unobstructed purity. They increased and brightened all of their good roots. They developed and nurtured all of their faculties. They entered the door of all wisdom. They entered the door of all dharanis, the door of all samadhis, the door of all great vows, the door of all wonderful conduct, and the door of all merit and virtue. All of these appeared before them. Their minds were extensive and great. They were replete with spiritual penetrations. Their bodies became unobstructed and traveled to all places. At that time, the youth good wealth entered the garden universal adornment and contemplated it thoroughly. He beheld the Upasika Asha seated on her wonderful throne. Going to where she was, he made obeisance at her feet. He circumambulated her countless times and said, "Sagely one, I have already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, but I still do not know how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. I heard that the Sagely One is skilled at guiding and teaching. I wish you would speak them for me." Asha replied, "Good man, I've attained only a single door of liberation of a bodhisattva. There are those who see, hear, or mindfully recollect me, or dwell with me, or make offerings to me. None of their efforts will be in vain. Good men, if they are living beings who have not planted good roots, who have not been gathered in by good friends, who are not protected or remembered by all the Buddhas, such people will never be able to see me. Good men, if they are living beings who get to see me, they will obtain irreversibility from Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. Good men, all the Buddhas of the East constantly come to this place and seated on jeweled thrones, speak Dharma for me. All the Buddhas from the south, west, north, the four intermediate directions above and below, also came to this place and seated on jeweled thrones, speak Dharma for me. Good men, I am never apart from seeing the Buddhas and hearing the Dharma, and I dwell together with all bodhisattvas. Good men, this great assembly of mine numbers 84 thousands of millions of nayutas, all who, in this garden, practice together with me, have attained irreversibility from Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. All the rest of the living beings who live in this garden have also universally entered the position of irreversibility. Good Wealth then said, "Sagely one, have you brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi for a long time?" She answered, "Good man, I remember in the past how at the place of Burning Lamp Buddha I cultivated Brahma conduct, respectfully made offerings, heard the Dharma, receiving and upholding it. Prior to that, At the place of living filth Buddha, I left the home life and studied the way, receiving and maintaining the proper Dharma. Prior to that, I was at the place of wonderful banner Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of victorious Sumeru Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of lotus flower virtuous treasury Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of Vairocana Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of universal I Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of pure long life Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of Vajra navel Buddha. Prior to that, I was at the place of God Varuna Buddha. Good men, I remember from the past throughout measureless kalpas, in measureless lifetimes, being successively at the places of Buddhas, to the number of sand grains in 36 Ganges rivers. I served, respected, and revered them, and made offerings to them. I heard the Dharma, received and upheld it, and purely cultivated Brahma practices. But what is known by the wisdom of all those past Buddhas is not something that I can fathom. Good men, the initial resolve of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it pervades all Dharma realms. The door of great compassion of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it universally enters all worlds. The door of great vows of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it ultimately pervades the 10 directions Dharma realms. The door of great kindness of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it universally shelters all living beings. The conduct and cultivation of a bodhisattva are without measure, as they are practiced in all kshetriyas throughout all kalpas. The power of samadhi of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it brings about non-retreat from the bodhisattva path. The power of uniting and upholding of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it can uphold all worlds. The power of the wisdom light of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it can universally certify to entry to the 3 periods of time. The power of spiritual penetrations of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it can universally manifest the nets of all kshetriyas. The power of eloquence of a bodhisattva is without measure, as its one sound can be understood by all. The pure body of a bodhisattva is without measure, as it pervades all Buddha kshetriyas. The youth good well said, "Sagely one, you should have obtained Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi long ago." She answered, "Good man, it is not for the sake of teaching, transforming, and subduing one single living being that a bodhisattva brings forth the bodhisattva resolve, nor is it for the sake of teaching, transforming, and subduing 100 living beings that a bodhisattva brings forth the Bodhi resolve, and so forth, up to it is not for the sake of teaching, transforming, and subduing an ineffable number of living beings that a bodhisattva brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is not for the sake of teaching and transforming living beings within one world that he brings forth the Bodhi resolved, and so forth, up to it is not for the sake of teaching and transforming living beings in ineffable number squared of worlds that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is not for the sake of teaching and transforming living beings in worlds as many as dust motes within Jambudvipa that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is not for the sake of teaching and transforming living beings in worlds as many as dust motes within a trichilocosm he brings forth the Bodhi resolve, and so forth, up to it is not for the sake of teaching and transforming living beings in worlds as many as dust motes in ineffable number squared of trichilocosms that he brings forth to body resolve. It is not for the sake of making offerings to one Tathagata he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of making offerings to an ineffable number squared of Tathagatas that he brings forth the body resolve. It is not for the sake of making offerings to Tathagatas who appear in succession within one world that he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of making offerings to Tathagatas who appear in succession within an ineffable number of worlds that he brings forth the body resolve. It is not for the sake of making offerings to Tathagatas who appear in succession within worlds as many as dust motes in one trichilocosm that he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of making offerings to Tathagatas who appear in succession in worlds as many as dust motes in ineffable number of Buddha Kshatriyas that he brings forth the body resolve. It is not for the sake of adorning and purifying one world system that he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of adorning and purifying an ineffable number of worlds that he brings forth the body resolve. It is not for the sake of adorning and purifying worlds as many as dust motes within one trichilocosm that he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of adorning and purifying worlds as many as dust motes within an ineffable number of trichilocosms that he brings forth the body resolve. It is not for the sake of making dwelling and maintaining the Dharma heritage of one Buddha, of one Tathagata, that he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of making dwelling and maintaining the Dharma heritage of ineffable number of Tathagatas that he brings forth the body resolve. It is not for the sake of making dwelling and maintaining the Dharma heritage of Tathagatas in worlds as many as dust motes within one Jambudvipa that he brings forth the body resolve, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of making dwell and maintaining the Dharma heritage of Tathagatas in worlds as many as dust motes within an ineffable numbers of Buddha Kshatriyas that he brings forth the body resolve. To speak of it in general terms, it is not for the sake of fulfilling the vows of one Buddha, not for the sake of dwelling in one Buddha country, not for the sake of entering one Buddha's assembly, not for the sake of upholding the Dharma eye of one Buddha, not for the sake of turning the Dharma wheel of one Buddha, not for the sake of turning the Dharma wheel of one Buddha, not for the sake of knowing the successive order of all kalpas within one world, not for the sake of knowing the sea of the mind of one living being, not for the sake of knowing the sea of faculties of one living being, not for the sake of knowing the sea of karma of one living being, not for the sake of knowing the sea of conduct of one living being, not for the sake of knowing the sea of afflictions of one living being, not for the sake of knowing the sea of afflicted habits of one living being, and so forth up to it is not for the sake of knowing the sea of afflicted habits of living beings as many as dust motes in an ineffable numbers of Buddha Kshatriyas that he brings forth the body resolve. It is because he wishes to teach, transform, tame, and subdue absolutely all living beings without exception, that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to serve and make offerings to absolutely all Buddhas without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to adorn and purify all Buddha lands without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to protect and uphold the proper teaching of absolutely all Buddhas without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to perfect the vows of absolutely all Tathagatas without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to travel to absolutely all Buddha lands without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to enter the assemblies of absolutely all Buddhas without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to know the successive order of all kalpas within absolutely all worlds without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to know the seas of minds of absolutely all living beings without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to know the seas of faculties of absolutely all living beings without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to know the seas of karma of absolutely all living beings without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to know the seas of conduct of absolutely all living beings without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to destroy the seas of afflictions of absolutely all living beings without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. It is because he wishes to pull them out of the seas of absolutely all afflictions and bad habits without exception that he brings forth the Bodhi resolve. Good men, to speak of the essential points, with the above billions of asankheyas of expedient practices, a bodhisattva brings forth the Bodhi resolve. Good men, a bodhisattva practices universal entry into all dharmas, for he certifies to attainment of them all. He universally enters all kshatriyas, for he adorns and purifies them. Therefore, good men, not until all the worlds are adorned and purified will my vows be exhausted. Not until I have exhaustively pulled out the afflictions and bad habits of all living beings will my vows be fulfilled. Good Wealth asked, Sagely One, what is the name of this liberation? She answered, Good man, this liberation is called banner of security apart from worry. Good man, I only know the single door of liberation. As to all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, their minds are like the sea, in that they can completely contain and receive all Buddha dharmas. They are like Mount Sumeru, in that they possess solid will and intent, which cannot be moved. They are like the medicine good view, in that they can eradicate the severe illness of afflictions of living beings. They are like the bright, pure sun, in that they can break through the dark obstructions of living beings' ignorance. They are like the great earth, in that they can act as a place of reliance for all living beings. They are like a good breeze, in that they can benefit all living beings. They are like a bright lamp, in that they can produce the light of wisdom for living beings. They are like a great cloud, in that they can rain down the Dharma of still extinction for living beings. They are like the pure moon, in that they can emit the light of blessings and virtue for living beings. They are like Lord Chakra, in that they can protect and guard all living beings. How could I possibly know or speak of such conduct of merit and virtue? Good men, to the south of this place, sea-tide, there is a country called Nalayur. Within it is a rishi called Bhishmottara Nirghosha. Go to where he is and ask him how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. At that time, the youth Good Wealth bowed at her feet and circumambulated her countless times. He gazed up at her with longing admiration and sorrowfully wept. He reflected in this way: to obtain bodhi is difficult. To draw near a good knowing advisor is difficult. To encounter a good knowing advisor is difficult. To obtain the faculties of a bodhisattva is difficult. To purify the faculties of a bodhisattva is difficult. To encounter good advisors who cultivate conduct similar to one's own is difficult. To contemplate according to principle is difficult. To cultivate relying on the teaching is difficult. To happen upon expedient devices that give rise to a mind of goodness is difficult. To happen upon the Dharma light that increases all wisdom is difficult. After entertaining these reflections, the youth Good Wealth bade farewell and took his leave. At that time, the youth Good Wealth accordingly reflected upon the Bodhisattva's proper teachings. He accordingly reflected upon the Bodhisattva's pure conduct. He brought forth a mind of increase in the power of a Bodhisattva's blessings. He brought forth a mind of clearly seeing all Buddhas. He brought forth a mind of giving rise to all Buddhas. He brought forth a mind of increasing and developing all great vows. He brought forth a mind of universally seeing the dharmas of the 10 directions. He brought forth a mind of clearly illumining the actual nature of all dharmas. He brought forth a mind of universally dispelling all obstructions. He brought forth a mind of contemplating the Dharma realm as devoid of darkness. He brought forth a mind of jeweled adornment of pure intent. He brought forth a mind of conquering and subduing all demons. He gradually traveled to the country of Nalayur and searched everywhere for Bhishmottara Nirghosha. He saw a great forest which was adorned with asankheyas of trees. Specifically, various leafy trees branched out with large foliage. Various flowering trees blossomed with luxuriant and fresh flowers. Various fruit trees ripened in close succession. Various jeweled trees rained down fruits of money. Great chandana trees were everywhere arranged in rows. Sinking in water trees constantly emitted fine fragrance. Mind-delighting fragrant trees gave off wonderful redolence as adornment. Patra trees stood on all sides. Nayagrodha trees were expiring and profuse. Jambunada trees perpetually rained down sweet fruits. Utpala flowers and Padma flowers adorned the ponds and lakes. At this time, the youth Good Wealth saw the rishi seated on some grass spread out beneath the chandana tree. He commanded some 10,000 disciples, some of whom were clothed in deerskin, some of whom were clothed with tree bark, some of whom wore clothes that were woven from grass. Their hair was tied up in top knots or hung down in braids, as they were gathered all around him. Upon seeing this, youth Good Wealth came to his side and prostrated with his 5 limbs on the ground. He said, "I've now met a true good advisor. A good advisor is a door that tends towards all wisdom, for he enables me to enter the true and actual way. A good advisor is a vehicle that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to arrive at the ground of a thus come one. A good advisor is a boat that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to arrive At the jeweled continent of wisdom, a good advisor is a torch that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to produce the brightness of the 10 powers. A good advisor is a road that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to enter the city of nirvana. A good teacher is a lamp that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to recognize safe and perilous paths. A good teacher is a bridge that tends toward all wisdom, for he takes me across treacherous and evil places. A good teacher is a canopy that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to produce the coolness of great kindness. A good teacher is an eye that tends toward all wisdom, for he enables me to obtain the door of seeing the nature of dharmas. A good teacher is a tide that tends toward all wisdom, for he fills me with the water of great compassion. After speaking these words, he arose from the ground. He circumambulated him a countless number of times, then stood before him with palms placed together and said, Sagely One, I have already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, but I still do not know how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. I heard the Sagely One is skilled at guiding and teaching. I wish you would speak them for me. At that time, Bhishmottara Nirghosha regarded his group of disciples and said, Good men, this youth has already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. Good men, this youth universally bestows fearlessness upon all living beings. This youth universally grants benefits to all living beings. This youth constantly contemplates the wisdom sea of all Buddhas. This youth wishes to drink the rain of all dharmas of sweet dew. This youth wishes to fathom the sea of all vast and extensive dharmas. This youth wishes to cause living beings to dwell within the sea of wisdom. This youth wishes to universally raise up the great cloud of compassion. This youth wishes to universally rain down the vast and great Dharma rain. This youth wishes universally to illumine the world with the moon of wisdom. This youth wishes to destroy the poisonous heat of afflictions in the world. This youth wishes to increase all the good roots of sentient creatures. At that time, upon hearing these words, each one of the multitude of immortals scattered superior wondrous fragrant flowers upon good wealth. They prostrated themselves on the ground and made obeisance, circumambulated him in reverence and respect, and said, This pure youth will most certainly save and protect all living beings. He will most certainly destroy the suffering in all the hells. He will most certainly forever sever the paths of the animals. He will most certainly turn away the realm of King Yama. He will most certainly shut the door of all places of difficulties. He will most certainly dry up the sea of all love and craving. He will most certainly forever destroy the sufferings of the skandhas. He will most certainly forever smash the darkness of ignorance. He will most certainly forever sever the fetters of greed and love. He will most certainly surround the world with a great ring mountain of blessings and virtue. He will most certainly reveal to the world the Sumeru-like great jewel of wisdom. He will most certainly make appear the pure sun of wisdom. He will most certainly reveal and disclose the Dharma treasury of good roots. He will most certainly enable the world to clearly recognize the dangerous and the safe. At that time, Bhishmottara Nirghosha told the multitudes of immortals, Good men, if there are those who can bring forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, they'll most certainly accomplish the path of all wisdom. This good lad has already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. He will purify the merit and virtue of the ground of all Buddhas. At that time, Bhismotara Nirghosha told Good Wealth, "Good man, I've attained the liberation of the Bodhisattva's insurpassable banner." Good Wealth asked, "Sagely One, what is the state of the liberation of the insurpassable banner like?" At that time, the rishi Bhishmotara Nirghosha stretched out his right hand and rubbed Good Wealth's crown. Then he took Good Wealth's hand. Thereupon, Good Wealth immediately saw his own body traveling to worlds as many as dust motes in the Buddha Kshetriyas of the 10 directions. He arrived at the places of Buddhas as many as dust motes in 10 Buddha Kshetriyas. He saw these Buddha Kshetriyas along with their assemblies and the Buddha's marks and characteristics and their various adornments. He also heard the Dharma, which the Buddhas proclaimed according to what was like by the minds of living beings. He completely penetrated every single word and phrase. He received and upheld each of them without any disorder or confusion. He also understood how these Buddhas purified and regulated their vows with various understandings. He also understood how these Buddhas accomplished their powers with pure vows. He also saw the physical characteristics which these Buddhas manifested according to the minds of living beings. He also beheld the great varicolored nets of brightness of these Buddhas, which were pure and perfect. He also understood the power of unobstructed wisdom and great light of these Buddhas. Moreover, he saw himself situated at the places of all these Buddhas, perhaps for 1 day and night, or for 7 days and nights, or half a month, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, or 100 million years, or an ayutta of millions of years, or an ayutta of millions of years, or through a duration of half a kalpa, or 1 kalpa, 100 kalpas, 1,000 kalpas, or hundreds of millions, up to and including kalpas as many as dust motes in ineffable Buddha Kshetriyas. At that time, upon being illuminated by the light of liberation of the Bodhisattva's insurpassable banner, the youth Good Wealth obtained the light of the Vairocana Treasury Samadhi. Upon illumination by the light of the endless wisdom liberation Samadhi, he obtained the light of universally gathering all directions Dharani. Upon illumination by the light of the Vajra-wheeled Dharani door, he obtained the light of ultimate pure wisdom mind Samadhi. Upon illumination by the light of Prajna Paramita of the universal door adornment, he obtained the light from the wheel of Buddha's treasury of emptiness Samadhi. Upon illumination by the light of the wheel of all Buddha Dharmas Samadhi, he obtained the light from Samadhi of endless wisdom of the 3 periods of time. At that time, the rishi Bhishmotara Nirghosha let go of the hand of Good Wealth. Immediately, the youth Good Wealth saw his own body was still at its original place. At that time, the rishi asked Good Wealth, "Good man, do you remember this?" Good Wealth said, "Yes, I do. This is due to the power of the Sagely One, my good knowing adviser." The rishi said, "Good man, I only know this liberation of the Bodhisattva's insurpassable banner, but as to how all Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas accomplish all supreme samadhis, how they obtain self-mastery with respect to all times, how in the space of a thought they can give rise to the limitless wisdom of all Buddhas, how they use the Buddha's wisdom lamp as adornment and universally illumine the world. How in the space of a single thought, they universally enter the states of the three periods of time. How they divide their forms and pervasively travel throughout the 10 directions countries. How their wisdom bodies universally enter all Dharma realms. How according to the minds of living beings, they can universally appear before them. How they contemplate their faculties and conduct to benefit them. How they emit pure light, which is extremely delightful. How could I possibly know or speak of their conduct of merit and virtue, of their supreme vows, of their adornments of kshatriyas, of their states of wisdom, of their activities in samadhi, of their spiritual penetrations and transformations, of the playful roaming of their liberation, of the differences of their physical characteristics, of the purity of their sounds, and of the light of their wisdom. Good men, south of here is a village called Ishana, where dwells the Brahman, victorious he. Go to where he is and ask him how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and cultivates the bodhisattva path. At that time, the youth good wealth leapt with joy. He bowed at his feet, circumambulated him countless times, and gazed up at him with longing admiration. Then he bade farewell and took his leave. At that time, upon being illuminated by the liberation of the Bodhisattva's insurpassable banner, the youth good wealth dwelled in the inconceivable spiritual power of all Buddhas. He certified to the wisdom of a Bodhisattva's inconceivable liberations and spiritual penetrations. He obtained the inconceivable samadhi wisdom light of a Bodhisattva. He obtained the samadhi wisdom light of saturating and cultivating at all times. He obtained the samadhi wisdom light of understanding that all states rely and dwelt on thought. He obtained the light of wisdom that is supreme in all worlds. In all places he manifested his body. With ultimate wisdom, he proclaimed the Dharma, which is level, equal, non-dual, and without differentiation. With clear and pure wisdom, he universally illumined all states. He could endure and receive all dharmas that he heard. He had pure faith and understanding towards the self-nature of dharmas. He possessed decisive understanding. His mind never abandoned the wonderful conduct of a bodhisattva. He sought all wisdom and never retreated. He obtained the wisdom light of the 10 powers. He diligently sought the wonderful Dharma forever without tiredness or satiation. With proper cultivation and practice, he entered the Buddha's state. He gave rise to limitless adornments of a bodhisattva. His boundless great vows had all been purified. With a wisdom that is without exhaustion, he knew the nets of boundless worlds. With an uncowardly mind, he rescued limitless seas of living beings. He understood the states of the boundless conduct of a bodhisattva. He perceived the various distinctions of boundless wisdom. He saw the various adornments of boundless worlds. He entered into the subtle states of boundless worlds. He knew the various names and titles of boundless worlds. He knew the various languages and speech of boundless worlds. He knew the various understandings of boundless living beings. He saw the various activities of boundless living beings. He saw the maturation of the conduct of boundless living beings. He saw the different thought of boundless living beings. He recollected his good knowing advisor and traveled progressively until he arrived at the village of Ishana. He saw that victorious heat was cultivating all sorts of ascetic practices in his search for all wisdom. He had masses of fire on all 4 sides like great mountains. In the midst was a mountain of knives, precipitous in height, unending, climbing to that mountain top, he would cast himself into the fire. At that time, the youth good wealth bowed at his feet, stood, put his palms together, and said, Sagely One, I have already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, but I still do not know how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. I heard that the Sagely One is skilled at guiding and teaching. I wish you would explain this for me. The Brahman said, Good man, if you can now go up this mountain of knives and throw yourself into the mass of fire, then all your bodhisattva conduct will be purified. At that time, the youth good wealth had this thought, It is difficult to obtain a human body. It is difficult to be apart from all disasters. It is difficult to attain freedom from difficulties. It is difficult to obtain pure dharmas. It is difficult to meet the Buddha. It is difficult to be replete with all faculties. It is difficult to get to hear the Buddha Dharma. It is difficult to get to meet good people. It is difficult to encourage a true good knowing advisor. It is difficult to receive proper teaching that accords with principle. It is difficult to have proper livelihood. It is difficult to get to practice according to the Dharma. Is this not a demon or envoy of a demon? Is this not an evil and treacherous accomplice of demons who feigns the appearance of a bodhisattva and a good knowing advisor, who wishes to create difficulty for my good roots, to create difficulty for my lifespan, to obstruct my cultivation of the path of all wisdom, to drag me down so I enter into the evil paths? Does he wish to obstruct my Dharma doors and obstruct my Buddha Dharmas? While he was having this thought, 10,000 Brahma gods spoke to him from empty space. Good man, do not have this thought. Do not have this thought. This sagely one has obtained the light of the Vajra blaze Samadhi. He has brought forth great vigor to save all living beings. His mind is without retreat. He wishes to dry up all the seas of greed and love. He wishes to sever all nets of deviant views. He wishes to consume the fuel of all afflictions. He wishes to shine through the dense forests of all delusions. He wishes to cut off all fear of old age and death. He wishes to break up all the obstructions of the three periods of time. He wishes to emit the light of all dharmas. Good men, we Brahma gods are over-attached to deviant views. We claim we are once possessed of self-mastery, that we are capable of creation, that in the world we are the most supreme. Upon seeing the Brahman victorious heat subject his body to the 5 fires, our minds no longer took pleasure in or were attached to our palaces. We could not derive flavor from the dhyana samadhis, so all of us came to where the Brahman was. At that time, the Brahman manifested great ascetic practices with the power of his spiritual penetrations and spoke Dharma for us. He was able to cause all of us to dispel all those views, to get rid of all arrogance, to dwell in great kindness, to practice great compassion, to bring forth a vast great mind, to produce the aspiration for Bodhi, to constantly see all Buddhas, to forever hear wonderful Dharma, so that in all places our minds were unobstructed. Moreover, there were 10,000 demons who from empty space strewed heavenly money gems upon the Brahman. They said to good wealth, Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that blaze overshadowed the objects of adornment in all our palaces, so that they became like a clump of ink. It caused us to no longer give rise to pleasure and attachment in their midst, whereupon we came to where he was with our retinues. The Brahman spoke Dharma for us. He caused us and measureless gods and goddesses all to attain irreversibility from Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. Moreover, there were 10,000 kings of the heaven of ease and comfort, who from empty space each strewed heavenly flowers. They said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that place overshadowed the objects of adornment in all our palaces, so that they became like a clump of ink. It caused us to no longer give rise to love and attachment in their midst, whereupon we came to where he was with our retinues. This Brahman spoke Dharma for us. He caused us to obtain ease and comfort in our minds, to obtain ease and comfort in the midst of afflictions, to obtain ease and comfort in the midst of undergoing rebirth, to obtain ease and comfort regarding all karmic obstacles, to obtain ease and comfort regarding all samadhis, to obtain ease and comfort regarding articles of adornment, to obtain ease and comfort regarding our lifespans, up to and including being able to obtain ease and comfort regarding all Buddha Dharmas. Moreover, there were 10,000 kings of the heaven of bliss from transformations, who in empty space played heavenly music respectfully as an offering. They said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that place illumined the objects of adornment in our palaces and all the heavenly maidens. It enabled us not to become receptive to pleasures and desire, and not to seek pleasures and desire. Our bodies and minds became gentle and supple. Thereupon, we came to where he was with our multitudes. At that time, the Brahman spoke Dharma for us. He was able to cause our minds to obtain purity, to cause our minds to obtain pure goodness, to cause our minds to obtain gentle suppleness, to cause our minds to obtain happiness, up to and including to cause us to obtain the purity of the 10 powers and purity of body, to give rise to measureless bodies, up to and including to cause us to obtain the Buddha's body, the Buddha's speech, the Buddha's sound, the Buddha's mind, and to perfect and accomplish the wisdom of all wisdoms. Moreover, there were 10,000 Tushita heavenly kings and measureless retinues of gods and goddesses, who in empty space rained down a multitude of wonderful fragrances and bowed in veneration. They said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, he caused all of us gods and our retinues to be without delight or attachment towards our palaces. Together, we came to where he was and heard him speak Dharma. He was able to cause us not to be greedy for states, to have few desires and no contentment, to bring forth happiness in our minds, to obtain fulfillment in our hearts, to give rise to good roots, to produce the Bodhi resolve, up to and including to perfect all Buddha Dharmas. Moreover, there were 10,000 gods of the heaven of the 33, with retinues of gods and goddesses surrounding them on all sides, who from empty space rained down mandarava flowers respectfully as an offering. They said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, he caused all of us gods to not give rise to pleasure and attachment toward heavenly music. Together we came to where he was. At that time, for our sake, the Brahman spoke of how dharmas are impermanent and subject to decay. He caused us to renounce and leave all desires and pleasures. He caused us to cut off arrogance and self-indulgence. He caused us to yearn for unsurpassed bodhi. Moreover, good men, at the time we beheld the Brahman, there were 6 types of quaking on the summit of Mount Sumeru. We were terrified and all brought forth the bodhi resolve that was firm, solid, and unmoving. Moreover, there were 10,000 dragon kings, specifically the dragon king Airavata, the dragon kings Nanda and Upananda, so forth, who from empty space rained down black chandana. Measureless dragon maidens played heavenly music and rained down wonderful heavenly flowers and heavenly fragrant water, respectfully as an offering. They said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that blaze universally illumined all the dragon palaces. It caused the dragon multitudes to be apart from the terror of hot sand and the terror of the golden winged birds, to destroy our hatred and anger, to attain purity and coolness in our bodies, to be without filth and turbidity, to believe and understand on hearing the Dharma, to grow tired of and be repulsed by the destiny of dragons, to repent of and dispel our karmic obstacles with a sincere mind, up to and including to bring forth the intent for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi and to dwell in all wisdom. Moreover, there were 10,000 Yaksha kings who in empty space respectfully used various articles as offerings to the Brahman and good wealth. They said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, we and our retinues all brought forth a mind of kindness and sympathy towards living beings. All Raksasas, Kumbhandas, and so forth also gave rise to a mind of kindness. Because of this mind of kindness, they did not vex or harm living beings. They came to see us. We, along with them, no longer took pleasure in or were attached to our palaces. Together, we came to where he was. At that time, the Brahman spoke Dharma that responded to our potential. All of us obtained peace and joy in body and mind. He also caused measureless yakshas, raksasas, kumbhandas, and so forth to produce the mind for unsurpassed bodhi. Moreover, there were 10,000 Gandharva kings in empty space who said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that blaze illuminated our palaces, causing all of us to experience inconceivable and measureless joy. For this reason, we came to where he was. This Brahman spoke Dharma for us and enabled us to attain irreversibility from Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. Moreover, there were 10,000 Asura kings who emerged from the great sea to dwell in empty space. They knelt on their right knees, put their palms together, and bowing forward, said, "Good men, when this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, our Asura palaces, the great sea, and the great earth all trembled and shook. These caused us to renounce our arrogance and self-indulgence. For this reason we came to where he was and heard him speak the Dharma. We renounced and separated from flattery and deceit, and peacefully dwelt on the ground of patience. We became firm, solid, and unmoving, and perfected the 10 powers. Moreover, there were 10,000 Garuda kings, courageous might-upholding king, who acted as their leader, transformed himself into a pure youth of an externally sway. In empty space, he sang out these words, "Good men." When this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that place illumined our palaces. Everything quaked and trembled, and everyone was terrified. For this reason, we came to where he was. At that time, the Brahman spoke Dharma that responded to our potential. He caused us to cultivate and practice great kindness, to love great compassion, to cross over the sea of birth and death, to rescue living beings from the mud of desire, to extol the resolve for Bodhi, to give rise to the wisdom of expedience, and according to their potential, to tame and subdue living beings. Moreover, there were 10,000 Kinara kings who from empty space sang out these words, "Good men." When this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, all the tala trees, the net of jeweled bells, the ribbons of precious silks, the musical trees, the trees of wondrous jewels, and the musical instruments in the palaces we inhabited, spontaneously emitted sounds of the Buddha, sounds of the Dharma, sounds of the irreversible Sangha, and sounds of the vow to seek unsurpassed Bodhi. These sounds proclaimed how in a certain direction, in a certain country, a certain bodhisattva brought forth the Bodhi resolve, and how in a certain direction, in a certain country, a certain bodhisattva cultivated ascetic practices, renouncing that which is difficult to renounce, up to the point of purifying the conduct of all wisdom. How in a certain direction, in a certain country, a certain bodhisattva went to a way place, up to and including how in a certain direction, in a certain country, a certain thus come one, having finished the work of a Buddha, entered parinirvana. Good men, if a person were to grind the grasses and trees in Jambudvipa into motes of dust, the extent of the number of those motes of dust could still be known, but no one can know the extent of the names of bodhisattvas, the names of thus come ones, the great vows they brought forth, the conducts they cultivated, and so forth, which were proclaimed by the jeweled tala trees, up to and including the sounds played by the musical instruments within our palaces. Good men, upon hearing these sounds of the Buddha, sounds of the Dharma, and sounds of the Bodhisattva Sangha, we brought forth great joy and came to where he was. Thereupon, the Brahman spoke Dharma that responded to our potential and caused us and measureless other living beings to obtain irreversibility from Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. Moreover, there were measureless gods of the desire realm, who in empty space respectfully made offerings of wonderful articles. They sang out these words, "Good men." When this Brahman subjected his body to the 5 fires, the light from that blaze illumined the Avicii and all the other hells. All the pains we were undergoing came to a rest. Upon seeing the light from this blaze, our minds brought forth pure faith. Because of this mind of faith, when our lives were terminated, we were reborn in the heavens. Being aware of this depth of kindness, we came to gaze up at him, respectfully in admiration, without any satiation. At that time, the Brahman spoke Dharma for us and caused measureless living beings to give rise to the Bodhi resolve. When the youth Good-Wealth heard such Dharma, his mind became greatly joyous. Toward the Brahman, he produced a thought that he was a true and actual good-knowing adviser. He bowed in veneration and sang out these words. Here in this place, I regarded the great sage, the good knowing adviser, with a mind that was not wholesome. I only hope that the sagely one will accept my repentance for my mistake. At that time, the Brahman spoke verses for good wealth. If there are bodhisattvas who accord with the good knowing adviser's teaching, then towards all they'll have no doubt or fear, but dwell serene, their minds unmoving. Know that people such as these will most certainly reap great vast benefits. Seated beneath the Bodhi tree, they'll accomplish unsurpassed enlightenment. At that time, the youth good wealth immediately ascended the mountain of knives and threw himself into the masses of fire. Not having even reached its midst, he instantaneously obtained the Bodhisattva Samadhi of great dwelling. Right upon coming into contact with the blaze, he moreover attained the Bodhisattva Samadhi of still quiet bliss and spiritual penetrations. Good Wealth said, strange indeed, sagely one, when my body came into contact with this mountain of knives and great masses of fire, I felt peaceful, serene, and joyous. At that time, the Brahman told Good Wealth, Good men, I've only attained this liberation of the never-ending wheel of bodhisattvas. As to how the blaze of great merit and virtue of all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, consumes the view delusions of living beings, so that none remains, how they absolutely will not retreat, how their minds are without limit or exhaustion, how their minds are without laxness or laziness, how their minds are without cowardice or weakness, how they bring forth a mind that is like a Vajra treasury and Narayana, and also the mind of swiftly cultivating all conducts without delay or tardiness, how with their vows like the wind wheel they universally uphold the great resolve to be vigorous in all kinds of ways without retreat. How can I possibly know or speak of such conducts of merit and virtue? Good men, south of here, in a city called Lion's Courageous Invigoration, is a maiden by the name of Kind Conduct. Go to where she is and ask her how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva way. At that time, the youth Good Wealth bowed at his feet, circumambulated him countless times, bade farewell, and left. Dwelling of the anointment of the crown. At that time, the youth Good Wealth gave rise to a mind of utmost veneration and honor towards the good knowing adviser. He pronounced vast, great, pure understanding. He was forever mindful of the great vehicle. He single-mindedly sought the Buddha's wisdom. He wished to see all Buddhas. He contemplated the states of the Dharma. Unobstructed wisdom constantly appeared before him. Regarding all dharmas, he decisively understood the reality limit, the eternally dwelling limit, the limit of all kashanas of the three periods of time, the limit of being like empty space, the limit of non-duality, the limit of non-differentiation of all dharmas, the limit of non-obstruction of all meanings, the limit of no loss or damage throughout all kalpas, the limit of the non-limit of all thus come once. Towards all Buddhas, his mind was without discrimination. He smashed the net of the multitudes of thoughts. He was apart from attachments. He did not grasp at the multitudes of all Buddhas' assemblies and way places. Neither did he grasp at the Buddha's pure lands. He knew all living beings are without a self. He knew all sounds are like echoes. He knew all forms are like reflections. He gradually went south and arrived at the city of lions, courageous invigoration. He sought everywhere for the maiden kind conduct. He heard that this maiden was a daughter of the King Lion banner, that 500 maidens served as her attendants, that she dwelt in the palace of Vairochana treasury, that she proclaimed wonderful Dharma while seated upon the throne, with a base of dragon victorious chandana and gold-threaded heavenly net upholstery. Upon hearing this, Good Wealth went to the palace gate to try to see that maiden. He saw measureless multitudes entering the palace. Good Wealth asked them, "Where are all of you going?" They answered, "We wish to go to the maiden kind conduct, to listen to and receive the wonderful Dharma." The youth Good Wealth immediately had this thought: since this palace gate is without bars or obstruction, I should also go in. After Good Wealth went in, he gazed at the Vairochana treasury palace. The ground was made of crystal. Vaidurya fashioned the pillars. Vajra served as walls. Jambunada gold formed the partitions. Hundreds of thousands of lights made up the windows and doors. Asankhya money gems served as ornaments. Jeweled treasury money mirrors were hung all around as adornments. It was decorated with the world's foremost money gems. Limitless jeweled nets were draped over it. Hundreds of thousands of golden bells emitted wondrous sounds. All such inconceivable multitudes of jewels and more served as its adornments. The maiden kind conduct had golden-hued skin. Her eyes were a violet color, and her hair was indigo. With Brahma sounds she proclaimed the Dharma. Upon seeing all this, Good Wealth bowed at her feet, circumambulated her countless times, put his palms together, stood before her, and said, "Sagely One, I have previously brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, but I still do not know how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. I heard that the Sagely One is adept at guiding and teaching living beings. I wish you would speak them for me." At that time, the maiden kind conduct told Good Wealth, "Good man, you should regard the adornments of my palace." Good Wealth made obeisance and proceeded to look all around him, on every wall, on every pillar, in every mirror, in every image, in every shape, in every money gem, in every object of adornment, in every golden bell, in every jeweled tree, in every jeweled shape of image, in every jeweled bead. He completely saw the reflections of all thus come ones. From their bringing forth of the initial resolve, their cultivating of the bodhisattva conduct, their accomplishing and fulfilling of great vows, their becoming replete with merit and virtue, their accomplishment of equal and proper enlightenment, their turning of the wonderful Dharma wheel, up to and including their manifesting entry into nirvana. There were none of these images that did not appear. It was as when the sun, moon, stars, and myriad phenomena of the sky can universally be seen reflected in clear water. All of this came about through the power of good roots from past lives of the maiden kind conduct. At that time, the youth Good Wealth recollected and was mindful of the appearance of all the Buddhas he had seen. Putting his palms together, he gazed up respectfully at the maiden kind conduct. At that time, the maiden told Good Wealth, "Good man, this is the door of universal adornment of Prajna Paramita. I've sought and obtained this Dharma in the presence of Buddhas to the number of sand grains in 36 Ganges rivers. Each of those thus come ones used a different door to cause me to enter this door of universal adornment of Prajna Paramita. What one Buddha had proclaimed, the rest of the Buddhas would not repeat. Good Wealth asked, sagely one, what are the states connected with this door of universal adornment of Prajna Paramita? The maiden said, Good man, when I enter this door of universal adornment of Prajna Paramita, I accord with my intent to reflect and contemplate, recollect and discriminate, and thereupon obtain the door of universality of Dharani. A million asankhya Dharani doors all manifest before me. Specifically, the Dharani door of Buddha Kshatriyas, the Dharani door of Buddhas, the Dharani door of Dharma, the Dharani door of living beings, the Dharani door of the past, the Dharani door of the future, the Dharani door of the present, the Dharani door of the eternally abiding limit, the Dharani door of blessings and virtue, the Dharani door of the aids to the way of blessings and virtue, the Dharani door of wisdom, the Dharani door of the aids to the way of wisdom, the Dharani door of all vows, the Dharani door of delineating all vows, the Dharani door of accumulating all conducts, the Dharani door of pure conduct, the Dharani door of perfect and full conduct, the Dharani door of karma, the Dharani door of karma without loss or damage, the Dharani door of the flowing of karma, the Dharani door of affairs created by karma, the Dharani door of renouncing and being apart from evil karma, the Dharani door of cultivating proper karma, the Dharani door of self-mastery of karma, the Dharani door of wholesome conduct, the Dharani door of upholding wholesome conduct, the Dharani door of samadhi, the Dharani door of the samadhi of compliance, the Dharani door of the samadhi of contemplation, the Dharani door of the states of samadhi, the Dharani door of rising from samadhi, the Dharani door of spiritual penetrations, the Dharani door of the sea of the mind, the Dharani door of various minds, the Dharani door of the straight mind, the Dharani door of illumining the dense forest of the mind, the Dharani door of the purity of a regulated mind, the Dharani door of knowing the origins of living beings, the Dharani door of knowing the activity of afflictions of living beings, the Dharani door of the habits of afflictions, the Dharani door of knowing the expedients to counteract afflictions, the Dharani door of knowing all living beings' understandings, the Dharani door of knowing living beings' conducts, the Dharani door of knowing the differences in living beings' conducts, the Dharani door of knowing living beings' natures, the Dharani door of knowing living beings' desires, the Dharani door of knowing living beings' thoughts, the Dharani door of universally seeing the 10 directions, the Dharani door of speaking Dharma, the Dharani door of great compassion, the Dharani door of great kindness, the Dharani door of still quietude, the Dharani door of pathways of languages, the Dharani door of both expedience and non-expedience, the Dharani door of compliance, the Dharani door of differences, the Dharani door of universal entry, the Dharani door of the limit of non-obstruction, the Dharani door of the universal pervasion, the Dharani door of the Dharma of Buddhas, the Dharani door of the Dharma of Bodhisattvas, the Dharani door of the Dharma of sound hearers, the Dharani door of the Dharma of those solitarily enlightened, the Dharani door of worldly Dharmas. the Dharani door of the formation of worlds, the Dharani door of the decay of worlds, the Dharani door of the dwelling of worlds, the Dharani door of the pure worlds, the Dharani door of the defiled worlds, the Dharani door of manifesting purity in defiled worlds, the Dharani door of manifesting defilement in pure worlds, the Dharani door of completely defiled worlds, the Dharani door of completely pure worlds, the Dharani door of level and flat worlds, the Dharani door of worlds that are not level and flat, the Dharani door of inverted worlds, the Dharani door of worlds like Indra's net, the Dharani door of the turnings of worlds, the Dharani door of knowing how they dwell in reliance on thought, the Dharani door of the subtle entering into the cause, the Dharani door of the cause entering into the subtle, the Dharani door of seeing all Buddhas, the Dharani door of discriminating the bodies of Buddhas, the Dharani door of the nets of adornments of the Buddha's likes, the Dharani door of the Buddha's perfect sound, the Dharani door of the Buddha's Dharma wheel, the Dharani door of the accomplishing the Buddha's Dharma wheel, the Dharani door of the Buddha's different Dharma wheels, the Dharani door of the Buddha's undifferentiated Dharma wheels, the Dharani door of the Buddha's explanation of Dharma wheels, the Dharani door of the Buddha's turnings of Dharma wheels, the Dharani door of being able to perform the Buddha's deeds, the Dharani door of discriminating the Buddha's multitudes and assemblies, the Dharani door of entering the Buddha's multitudes and assemblies, the Dharani door of the Buddha's power of universal illumination, the Dharani door of all Buddha's samadhis, the Dharani door of easy and comfortable functioning of all the Buddha's samadhis, the Dharani door of all the Buddha's dwellings, the Dharani door of all Buddha's upholdings, the Dharani door of all the Buddha's transformations, the Dharani door of the Buddha's knowing the workings of living beings' minds, the Dharani door of all Buddha's spiritual penetrations and transformational manifestations, the Dharani door of dwelling in the Tushita Heaven Palace, up to and including manifesting entry into Nirvana, the Dharani door of benefiting limitless living beings, the Dharani door of entering most profound dharmas, the Dharani door of entering subtle and wonderful Dharma, the Dharani door of the Bodhi mind, the Dharani door of giving rise to the Bodhi mind, the Dharani door of aiding the Bodhi mind, the Dharani door of all vows, the Dharani door of all conducts, the Dharani door of spiritual penetrations, the Dharani door of escapings, the Dharani door of purity of uniting and upholding, the Dharani door of purity of the wheel of knowledge, the Dharani door of purity of wisdom, the Dharani door of limitlessness of Bodhi, the Dharani door of purity of one's own mind. Good men, I only know this door of universal adornment of Prajna Paramita as to how all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, possess vast and great minds that are like the realm of empty space, how they enter the Dharma realm, how they fully accomplish blessings and virtue, how they dwell in transcendental dharmas, how they are far apart from worldly conduct, how their wisdom eye is without coverings, how they universally contemplate the Dharma realm, how their wisdom mind is vast and great, just like empty space, how they can clearly see all states, how they attain the great brightness treasury of the ground of non-obstruction, how they are adept at discriminating the meanings of all dharmas, how they cause in worldly conduct, yet do not become defiled by worldly dharmas, how they can benefit the world, yet not be damaged by the world, how they universally act as places of reliance for all worlds, how they universally know the activities in all living beings' minds, how they speak Dharma according to their potential, how they constantly attain self-mastery with respect to all times. How could I possibly know or speak about such conduct of merit and virtue? Good men, south of here in the kingdom called Three Eyes is a bhikshu named Good Looking. Go to where he is and ask him how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and cultivates the bodhisattva path. At that time, the youth Good Wealth bowed at her feet, circumambulated her countless times, gazed up at her in longing admiration, bade farewell, and took his leave.